Kane is resting in his newly rented apartment when he suddenly hears footsteps nearby. A shadowy figure walks past him, and the bathroom door closes behind it. The sound of running water follows. Curious, Kane approaches the bathroom door. Someone seems to be showering inside. Gathering his courage, he pushes the door open, only to find the shower curtain drawn. As he steps forward to investigate, he slips on a stray stocking and crashes into the empty bathtub. The water isn't even on. Thinking he might be drunk, Kane splashes water on his face to clear his head. But then he spots a woman's toiletry on the sink, impossible since he lives alone. Before he can react, a female figure glides past him. Terrified, Kane creeps into the living room where the woman now sits in his chair, murmuring about how she died. Assuming she wants his help, maybe because he's a lawyer, he stammers that he can't help her and flees to his room. Only then does he notice she's wearing earbuds. The next night at precisely 10:06, Kane's bedroom erupts in a blinding flash. When the light fades, his apartment has transformed. Unfamiliar furniture now fills the space. He wakes with a start to find a strange girl sleeping beside him, her arms draped over his chest. Frozen in terror, he assumes she's yesterday's ghost returned. The girl jolts awake, screaming when she sees him. She flees to the living room, snatching a wine bottle as a weapon. "Open this door right now," she shouts, pounding on his bedroom door. Kane remains paralyzed with fear, convinced he's being haunted. At exactly 10:52, the impossible happens. Before the girl's eyes, Kane simply vanishes into thin air. Meanwhile, in his own reality, Kane can't understand why this persistent spirit won't leave him alone. A knock interrupts. An elderly neighbor complains about nighttime laundry noise. The girl is confused. She hasn't used the washer in days. Next morning, both report strange encounters to the landlord. She suspects a previous tenant has keys. Kane believes the apartment's haunted. When Kane describes the ghost, the landlord pales and flees. 10:06 p.m. As Riley soaks in her bath and Kane showers in what each believes is their private apartment, their realities collide literally. Riley feels something suspiciously like a man's leg in her tub, while Kane stares in horror at the naked woman who just appeared in his shower. Their synchronized screams could shatter glass. Riley demands to know why this stranger is in her home. Kane counters that he's the legal tenant, brandishing his lease. When Riley produces an identical contract, they discover the terrifying discrepancy. Her document is dated October 9, 2017, while his shows February 9, 2018. Riley frantically points to her belongings throughout the apartment as proof of residence. Kane insists he just moved in yesterday, his boxes still unpacked. Neither can accept the impossible truth. They're occupying the same space 4 months apart in time. Convinced the other must be insane, they storm out to confront the neighbor, each determined to prove their version of reality is the true one. Riley asks an elderly neighbor about Mrs. Lynn, needing her to confirm she lived there just yesterday. The man insists Mrs. Lynn returned to her hometown a month ago, directly contradicting Riley's memory of their interaction. As Riley turns to find Kane for support, he mysteriously disappears. In his place appears Mrs. Lynn herself, casually strolling back from exercise despite supposedly being away. The impossible contradiction between the neighbor's claim and Mrs. Lynn's sudden appearance makes Riley question everything. Watching Mrs. Lynn walk away, Riley stands frozen, her understanding of reality shattered by these inexplicable events. In a parallel timeline, Kane stares at where Riley just vanished. Her belongings disappeared too. Precisely 10:06 p.m., he watches objects materialize, none of them his. The room light switches on by itself. Kane investigates, finding the apartment rearranged. By 10:52 p.m., everything resets. This isn't coincidence. Their homes exist in the same space, 4 months apart, merging nightly between 10:06 and 10:52. Kane, once an undefeated lawyer, recalls his downfall after being accused of evidence tampering. During his lowest moment, he picked up a paper horse that fell from a corpse being transported. He placed the origami horse in his new apartment. Now it glows mysteriously every night at 10:06 p.m., causing temporal overlaps with Riley's timeline. The chilling realization hits. If the horse came from a corpse and connects to Riley, was that body hers from the future? The next day, Kane confided in Ethan about the bizarre temporal occurrences. Skeptical, Ethan searched for Riley on a dating app, finding her inactive profile. To his surprise, he discovered an old photo showing Kane with Riley, evidence they had met months earlier during a neighborhood dispute consultation Kane didn't remember. As they examined the photo, the image suddenly changed before their eyes. Simultaneously, Kane experienced a flood of new memories, alternate versions of past events where Riley already knew him. Confused, he recalled moments where Riley had approached him months ago, only to be rejected by his past self who didn't recognize her. Kane immediately checked his phone, finding newly appeared text messages between him and Riley that neither recalled sending. Ethan verified the same messages now existed on his device too. The implications became clear. Their nightly temporal fusions were actively rewriting history, creating ripple effects across both timelines. Realizing this phenomenon could undo his recent professional downfall, Kane contemplated using Riley to alter his fate. Meanwhile, unnoticed in his apartment, the paper horse began glowing faintly, its connection to Riley's destiny growing stronger with each timeline change. Kane's mysterious paper horse began glowing at precisely 10:06 p.m. In his apartment, objects materialized out of nowhere, while in her timeline, Riley's phone suddenly lost service as the two spaces merged again. Their accidental collision sparked immediate conflict. Riley, unaware of the temporal phenomenon, assumed Kane had broken into her home again after pretending not to know her earlier that day. Kane desperately explained their apartments were merging across time, pointing to his belongings suddenly appearing in her space as proof. Skeptical, Riley attacked him until Kane produced that day's newspaper showing a prosecutor's conviction, a case Riley knew had just begun. He then led her to a restaurant that had been under construction in her time but now stood completed. With Riley's phone having no service in this future timeline, she reluctantly accepted the impossible truth. Crucial revelation emerged. In this current timeline, Riley no longer lived in the apartment, suggesting some undisclosed event had driven her away, creating the temporal rift that connected their lives across months. Against all logic, they had become time-crossed roommates, their fates now intertwined by the glowing paper horse's mysterious power. On their way back, Kane noticed Riley shivering in her autumn clothes during winter. He insisted on giving her his jacket despite her protests. As rain suddenly poured, Riley's umbrella provided shelter with just 2 minutes remaining until 10:52, their separation time. They raced through the storm, reaching the apartment as the final seconds ticked away. The moment they turned to each other, Riley vanished into her timeline, leaving only Kane's dropped jacket as evidence of their encounter. The strange night left both unsettled. Kane standing alone in the rain, Riley suddenly finding herself dry and confused back in autumn. That evening, Dylan Carter gave Riley a ride home and showed her a photo of his fiancée, Sophia Wright, the same woman whose murder case had ruined Kane's career. The shocking revelation meant Dylan would be dead within 4 months, with Sophia as the prime suspect for killing her husband. In the future timeline, Kane discovered Riley was actually Dylan's protégé through her social media posts. A plan formed in his mind. If they could prevent Dylan and Sophia's marriage in the past, the murder might never happen. Kane began researching Riley's habits and preferences online, knowing he needed to gain her trust to orchestrate this intervention. Temporal conspiracy took shape, with Kane preparing to manipulate events across timelines while Riley remained unaware of her crucial role in preventing the tragedy that connected all their fates. Kane prepared Riley's favorite desserts and waited for their 10:06 p.m. meeting. When the time came, Riley failed to appear. She stood outside her apartment door, unable to enter as a mysterious white light blocked her path. Inside, Kane heard noises but found no one when he opened the door. Riley's watch showed 10:06 had passed. She was locked out of her own timeline. 10:52 p.m. she finally entered, now separated from Kane by time. The next day, Kane tried again. Paper horse glowed, reuniting them. He attempted friendly conversation while Riley examined photos with Dylan. Kane carefully suggested she prevent Dylan and Sophia's marriage, avoiding mention of Dylan's fate. Offended by the implication, Riley angrily refused and walked away. Kane recalled critical evidence from Dylan's murder case, proof of his infidelity. He convinced Riley to invite Sophia over, planning to reveal the affair and prevent their marriage. Meanwhile, Riley's editor assigned her to cover a murder trial. The defendant, Felix, had a long criminal record. To her surprise, Kane served as his defense attorney. Though historically this wasn't the case that ruined Kane, his arrogant confidence in defending such a despised suspect appalled Riley. Public overwhelmingly believed Felix guilty, and even Riley found herself swayed by popular opinion. But Kane remained unfazed, privately possessing evidence that would exonerate Felix and point to the real killer, a revelation that would challenge everyone's assumptions about justice and guilt. Courtroom tensed as prosecutor Julian Musman, Kane's future nemesis, presented his case against Felix Steele. A police officer testified Felix and victim Luna Vale's relationship had been forbidden by her parents. According to evidence, Luna disappeared after meeting Felix, her body later found in a suitcase near Dayton Mountain, with forensic signs of violent death. Kane noticed Riley in the press gallery, her expression conflicted. He countered with traffic footage showing Felix's drunk driving arrest shortly after the alleged murder, with a 75 mg per 100 milliliters blood alcohol level, enough to cause severe impairment. Yet Luna's autopsy revealed a precise stab wound to the heart. Can the jury believe, Kane challenged, that someone this impaired could deliver such an exact fatal blow? Julian dismissed this as speculative, arguing that alcohol affects individuals differently. But Kane played additional footage showing Felix stumbling during the traffic stop, his speech slurred, his movements uncoordinated. This isn't just impairment, Kane emphasized. This is complete physical incapacity. The prosecution's alternative theory, that Felix drank after committing the murder to calm his nerves, lacked any supporting evidence. Trial took a dramatic turn when Kane produced Felix's signed confession. As Felix struggled to read the document aloud, mispronouncing words and stumbling over phrases, the courtroom murmured in surprise. Felix suddenly erupted, claiming someone had forced him to copy the confession under threat of death. "They gave me the paper to copy word for word," Felix shouted, his desperation palpable. "They said if I didn't sign it, I'd end up like Luna." Luna's parents erupted in angry protest from the gallery as Kane calmly announced his next witness, Ethan, Felix's cousin, who could corroborate the coercion claims. Julian immediately challenged Ethan's credibility due to the familial relationship, creating another layer of complexity. With both sides presenting compelling arguments, the judge declared a recess, leaving the truth suspended between conflicting versions of that fateful night. Case's resolution would wait for another day in court, its mysteries still unraveling beneath the surface. In the alternate timeline, Kane browsed Riley's social media when her posts suddenly changed, now showing photos with Julian. New memories flooded Kane's mind. Felix waking to find Luna murdered. With his criminal record, Felix panicked and disposed of her body, unknowingly caught on camera. Though public opinion condemned Felix, Kane's legal expertise uncovered flaws in the case, buying time to prove his innocence. When Luna's parents begged Kane to drop the defense, Riley witnessed his refusal, cementing her view of him as heartless. Julian, recognizing Riley as a journalist, manipulated her sympathy to interview the grieving parents. Unaware of being used, Riley agreed. Her perception of the case now dangerously skewed against Kane's defense. The heart-wrenching interview with Luna's parents played on every screen, their tearful condemnation of Kane sparking public outrage. Kane immediately recognized Julian's strategy, using media to poison the jury pool before trial. Undaunted, he called his own press conference, standing firm as eggs splattered against the podium and shouts of "traitor" filled the air. Riley watched from the crowd, unsettled by Kane's unshakable composure amidst the chaos. That night at precisely 10:06 p.m., their timelines connected again. Kane methodically dismantled the prosecution's narrative. Why would Luna, raised by strict parents, rush to meet Felix so late? Why seek comfort from someone who'd allegedly kill her? Riley's skepticism wavered as Kane presented his analysis, though she insisted it remained speculative. When Kane produced a crucial document, Ethan suddenly arrived and snatched it away, warning it couldn't be shared with Riley, who might leak it to Julian. Tension escalated when Ethan mentioned monitoring Riley's Facebook. Enraged, Riley accused Kane of spying on her. Kane's defensive joke about investigating hundreds of women only worsened the situation, prompting Riley to storm out. Chasing after her, Kane desperately revealed the truth about their temporal connection. But Riley's expression darkened with renewed distrust, convinced this was another lie. As Kane struggled to explain, Riley grew more certain he was manipulating her, their fragile trust shattered by secrets and surveillance accusations. In the courtroom 4 months earlier, Kane presented decisive evidence: security footage from Felix's apartment showing Luna entering safely and going to sleep with Felix. Crucial recording revealed an intruder entering later and committing the murder, completely exonerating Felix. Luna's parents collapsed in anguish upon seeing their daughter's final moments, their grief compounded by the realization they'd accused an innocent man. Police had overlooked this evidence in their rush to close the case. With this revelation, Kane maintained his perfect trial record. Riley, witnessing everything, finally understood the truth but still criticized Kane's clinical presentation of the facts during her interview. She accused him of callousness toward the grieving parents. Kane defended his professional duty, explaining that while painful, objective truth must prevail in court. As a defense attorney, Kane stated, "My responsibility is to uncover truth and ensure fair judgment, regardless of emotional consequences. The law cannot bend to sympathy." His unwavering commitment to justice left Riley conflicted, forced to reconcile her personal feelings with professional realities. The timeline's cruel irony unfolded as Riley, having finally apologized to Kane, helped arrange a meeting with Sophia to prevent Dylan's doomed marriage. To their shock, Sophia already knew about Dylan's infidelity but remained determined to wed him, leaving their plan in tatters. The stakes heightened when both received urgent summons, Riley from prosecutor Julian, Kane from Sophia, and fate threw them together on the same bus amidst Taipei's evening rush. During their tense ride, Kane noticed Riley studying his paper horse with peculiar intensity. She revealed an identical origami had been her most cherished childhood gift. Their hands brushed as he taught her to fold a new one, the intimate lesson yielding a pink paper horse that Riley shyly gifted him, a tender moment overshadowed by impending tragedy. Dawn brought devastation when Mandy, Riley's grief-stricken friend, arrived collecting belongings. Kane's blood ran cold as she handed him a glass jar overflowing with paper horses, each identical to the one he'd found months earlier on an unidentified corpse. The horrifying connection snapped into focus. The mysterious body had been Riley's all along, their temporal bond far deeper than either imagined. As Mandy whispered, "Heart attack," Kane clutched the jar, realizing every intervention had only cemented their star-crossed destiny. In the alternate timeline, Riley folded paper horses when a childhood memory surfaced. Years ago, visiting her hospitalized father, she was taken hostage during a robbery. Kane's father, a police officer, intervened, offering himself in exchange while comforting the terrified girl with a paper horse. He entrusted Riley to return it to his son, along with a promise to spend more time together. The negotiation turned deadly when the robber opened fire, killing Kane's father instantly. The trauma also proved fatal for Riley's already ill father after seeing news of the hostage crisis. At the officer's funeral, Riley attempted to deliver the paper horse but was forcibly removed by grieving relatives. As she exited, she unknowingly passed young Kane, their first fateful near-meeting, the paper horse forever connecting their tragic pasts across time. Kane questioned Mandy about Riley's sudden heart attack, learning she collapsed outside the courthouse during Dylan's case. The revelation confirmed his fear. The corpse he'd seen months ago was future Riley. Determined to change her fate, Kane brought health supplements, subtly probing about chest pains while Riley insisted she felt fine. Their conversation turned to the case, but Kane grew distracted watching Riley handle the paper horse. When she mentioned its original giver, calling it a lucky charm, Kane froze, recognizing his father's words. The tragic connection became clear. This was the same paper horse his father gave Riley years ago, the one that fell from her body after death, the object that started their time-crossed connection. A horrifying realization struck. Had retrieving this cursed talisman unknowingly set their doomed timeline in motion? The very act meant to save her might have sealed her fate. Concerned for Riley's health, Kane suggested she take leave from her dream journalism job, an idea she immediately rejected, puzzled by his sudden protectiveness. Their conversation was interrupted when Mandy arrived with apple pie, only to leave upon seeing Kane together with Riley. This mundane visit revealed an extraordinary discovery. The Mandy who delivered the pie was actually from 4 months ago in 2017. Kane realized the apartment's balcony served as a temporal gateway. Exiting through it led to 2017, while the front door remained in 2018. Determined to alter Riley's fate, Kane consulted Julian about her death. The prosecutor revealed Riley had died of heart failure at exactly 10:06 p.m. during Sophia's trial, with time of death recorded at 10:52 p.m., matching precisely the apartment's temporal convergence periods. Their connection, it seemed, was fated across timelines all along. Kane remained unconvinced of Riley's natural heart failure. Through reviewing her autopsy report with Julian, they discovered critical omissions, no tests for vitreous humor or cardiac blood glucose levels, suggesting possible insulin injection disguised as cardiac arrest. Returning home, Kane noticed Dylan's death date had shifted forward in the newspaper, a clear sign their time interference was accelerating events. With Dylan's new death hour approaching, Kane rushed through the balcony portal to 2017 to warn Riley. They arrived at Dylan's home to find him already dead, Sophia covered in blood. History had repeated despite their efforts. As Kane prepared to leave, avoiding his past self, he urged Riley to study the crime scene carefully, suspecting a direct connection between Dylan's murder and her impending death. Entering the crime scene, Riley noticed Sophia hastily disposing of a cigarette butt, evidence suggesting another visitor. Soon Julian and past Kane arrived to investigate. Sophia claimed Dylan had been attacked by loan sharks earlier, fighting them off with his judo skills before being murdered during a second confrontation. Julian's sharp questioning exposed inconsistencies. Sophia couldn't identify the murder weapon, a missing trophy, or the attacker's face, yet her blood-stained clothing showed high-velocity spatter patterns indicating close proximity during the killing, contradicting her claim of hiding in fear. Meanwhile, Riley realized the cigarette butt had vanished. Unbeknownst to her, this discarded evidence would become pivotal, not just for Dylan's case but tragically for her own fate. As investigators pieced together the conflicting accounts, the crime scene revealed more questions than answers, with Sophia's suspicious behavior and the missing trophy pointing to a darker truth beneath the surface of this domestic tragedy. Future Kane learned from Mandy that Riley had gone to court not for reporting, but to meet an informant claiming to have crucial evidence about Sophia's case, confirming she was likely murdered. This revelation connected to earlier discoveries. Photos of Dylan's attack showed an assailant holding a syringe, and testing confirmed insulin residue at the scene. The identical method suggested one killer targeting both Dylan and Riley. Overwhelmed by concern, Kane broke his rule and revealed the full truth to Riley: her impending death, the insulin injection, and the courthouse trap. With urgent desperation, he pleaded with her to avoid covering Sophia's trial entirely, insisting no story was worth her life. Meanwhile, evidence mounted. The mysterious cigarette butt Riley witnessed Sophia hiding, the missing trophy weapon, and now the insulin syringe all pointed to a complex conspiracy. With time running out, Kane made a desperate decision. He would cross timelines again to enlist his past self's help, creating a paradoxical alliance to rewrite their tragic futures. Young Kane stared in disbelief at his future self. To prove his identity, older Kane accurately predicted a football match's outcome and revealed intimate personal secrets. The stunned lawyer finally accepted the impossible truth. Future Kane explained Riley's mysterious knowledge of him. She knew everything because they'd meet across time. This revelation shocked young Kane, who currently disliked Riley. As past Kane processed this, he grew visibly disgusted with his future self's changed perspective. The temporal meeting created a paradox, the younger version judging his own future character development with contempt, unable to reconcile their differing views about Riley. Temporal drama took a romantic turn when Kane returned to find Julian escorting Riley home. The prosecutor's intimate gestures, adjusting her scarf, lingering at her doorstep, ignited Kane's jealousy. In an uncharacteristically emotional outburst, he confronted them, brandishing his apartment keys like a territorial claim. Julian's face fell as the impossible truth registered. His courtroom rival shared a home with the woman he admired. Riley's flustered explanation about being just roommates satisfied neither man. The air thickened with unspoken tensions as Kane's possessive display betrayed feelings he himself hadn't acknowledged. Unable to resist twisting the knife, Kane perfectly mimicked Julian's most vulnerable confession to Riley, words he shouldn't have known. This final cruelty sent Julian retreating into the night, his romantic hopes shattered. With only 1 month until Riley's predicted death, young Kane investigated Jean Dupay, the prime suspect identified by future Kane, but found no motive. Suddenly, future Kane's memories updated. Their interference had accelerated the timeline, moving Riley's death to tomorrow night. During the next temporal convergence, Riley failed to return home. Desperate, Kane and Ethan traveled back, but Riley wouldn't answer calls. Rushing to the courthouse, their rental car mysteriously vanished mid-route. Forced to continue on foot, Kane sprinted toward the courthouse as the critical hour approached. Behind him, Ethan's face twisted into an unsettling expression, hinting at betrayals yet uncovered in their desperate race to rewrite fate. The courthouse, Riley waited to interview young Kane, unaware her death timeline had moved up. Jean Dupay suddenly appeared with his syringe, just as future Kane arrived and took the fatal injection meant for Riley. As the drug took effect, a mysterious energy barrier isolated the three from the outside world. Young Kane watched in shock as his future self collapsed, the situation taking an unexpected supernatural turn. When the crowd dispersed, young Kane noticed the paper horse on the ground, the same one from his childhood memories. Touching it unleashed a flood of forgotten moments, all the times Riley had stood by him, their shared laughter, her unwavering support. These implanted memories transformed his perception instantly. Where there was once annoyance now grew an unshakable bond. Paper Horse had completed its purpose, connecting their timelines not just physically but emotionally, rewriting young Kane's heart in this critical moment. Ethan learned about Kane's death and smiled faintly, raising suspicions about his involvement. Turning home, he found his girlfriend and brother naked on the floor, confirming an affair. Enraged, he killed her with a dagger, unknowingly staining his sleeve with blood. A man reviewing surveillance noticed Ethan's odd behavior and investigated, discovering a photo of him with the victim and taking the blood-stained clothes. The investigator, Woo Won-han, concluded Ethan was the killer and blackmailed him. However, Ethan had also uncovered Woo's secret, a matching cigarette but from Dylan's murder scene. After confronting Woo, who admitted guilt, the two murderers began blackmailing each other. Woo sent an accomplice to silence Ethan, leading to the accomplice's arrest. Woo then manipulated the accomplice into confessing to Dylan's murder, which he foolishly agreed to. A car rental owner approached Kane, complaining that a young man, Ethan, had abandoned his vehicle in the middle of the road and demanded compensation. Kane went to Ethan's home but found him absent, instead discovering a hidden room filled with detailed case files, legal books, and a meticulously mapped network of personal connections. The seemingly simple-minded Ethan had concealed a sharp, calculating mind. Kane also spotted a photo of Ethan with the victim, triggering alarm. At the crime scene, he found slippers marked Bao, Ethan's childhood nickname, confirming Ethan was the killer seen in surveillance footage. When confronted, Ethan admitted everything, resentful of Kane's success while he remained an overlooked assistant. Refusing to surrender, he turned hostile. Meanwhile, Riley found a lighter left by Woo Won-han at Dylan's crime scene, its bloodstain matching Dylan's DNA, proof of Woo's guilt. Learning this, Woo called Ethan for help. Meanwhile, young Kane's memories fully merged with present Kane's after contact with the paper horse. Kane's first priority was finding Riley, who immediately sensed his return, reigniting their relationship. Soon, Ethan called Kane, revealing Woo Won-han's location and urging him to bring Julian for the arrest. Unaware it was a trap, they arrived at the scene. Ethan then claimed he wanted to surrender, luring Cain to a back alley for a talk. Meanwhile, a disguised officer abducted Riley. Woo Won-han appeared, directing attention to a mysterious bag on the balcony. Moments later, Riley was brought up, bound and helpless. The fake officer removed his disguise, revealing Ethan, who held Riley hostage, demanding Cain negotiate. Risking his life, Cain confronted him. Ethan confessed his motive. As an orphan, he had been taken in by Cain's father, who treated him like a son. But after the man died saving Riley, Ethan's resentment festered, driving him to vengeance. Ethan, fully aware there was no redemption after his murderous actions, determined to drag Riley to death with him, a final act of warped vengeance against Cain's father who had died saving Riley years before. When Cain desperately tried reasoning with his former protege, Ethan responded with a vicious punch that sent Cain sprawling across the concrete rooftop. As the standoff intensified, Cain and Riley clutched each other tightly, bracing for Ethan's next violent outburst. In a sudden moment of clarity, haunting memories overwhelmed Ethan, visions of Xiaowei's murder, his brother's betrayal, and all his accumulated sins. His hand trembled as he pressed the gun barrel against his own temple. Young Cain reacted instantly, throwing himself at Ethan just as the trigger clicked. The gunshot echoed across the rooftop as the bullet meant for Ethan's skull instead tore through young Cain's shoulder. Emergency surgeons later confirmed the wound wasn't fatal, but the trauma had plunged young Cain into a deep coma. In the following months, Riley devoted herself to caring for the comatose Cain at the hospital, sharing daily stories and visiting their favorite restaurant where she used to dine with future Cain. She also visited Ethan in prison, where the remorseful man asked her to convey his apologies to Cain. Exactly 4 months later at 10:06 p.m., the mystical paper horse emitted a radiant glow and flew across the city to Cain's bedside. Cain suddenly awoke and left the hospital unnoticed. Meanwhile at home, Riley noticed strange occurrences, the refrigerator mysteriously filled with food, a freshly drunk coffee cup on the table, telltale signs of temporal convergence. As she realized Cain must have returned, familiar footsteps approached from behind. Two lovers, having endured multiple life and death separations across timelines, finally reunited in a passionate embrace and kiss, their long journey through time and trauma reaching its emotional conclusion.